Whenever there's a loss, it gives you, say, an opportunity, or it gives that opportunity to hold on to that moment where that loss occurred. And some of you are feeling it, which is good. Again, it's an experiential show. It's not just about knowledge or real knowledge. This is the heart type individual. What they do is like they carry or hold on to people's pains. So again, whether you're a lover or the one that's accepting that love, it doesn't really matter. It's just different sides of the coin of the same pattern. These people, the heart-based felt ones, I love you. I can feel it in my heart. My heart pains me whenever you're away. All that stuff. Again, from my marriage and all that, I've learned to run away from people like that whenever they say that. It's scary to me, right? Because I see the underlying frequencies. So what they're doing is literally they're pulling your essence and putting it into your heart. So what happens is, like, as you walk away, your presence literally tears. It starts to tear, right? So imagine that you have, again, you're glued on to somebody, because that's what they do. Glued onto their heart. You walk away, you go away, right? It pulls and tears the flesh. And they feel that pain as you distance yourself. They can never live without you. This is again where they start to close in on you. They start to literally compress you. They start to put you in a prison. You can't go away from them. They want to know everything that you're doing. They want to know everything. Again, everything. They want to check your, who you're texting, all those things. And this usually happens too. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect, because we got to cover all, this aspect happens, there's a lot of loss involved in those individuals who hold on to, say, the burdens of love in the heart. There's usually a loss involved. And it doesn't mean death. It could be an illness. It's like, oh, this is where, it's like, yeah, my spouse died and I could never go over. I still feel the burden or the pain. What they're doing is literally, they don't let their spouse go. Or their spouse doesn't let them go. Either way, it doesn't matter. What happens? That dead spouse gets pulled into their heart space. Now they live in their heart. And then they start turning into their spouse. Get it? So let's take a deep breath in. I know it gets really heavy. It's good. If you're feeling a lot of heaviness in this, it's because the burdens of how you love, you're actually seeing how much it weighs on you. You're actually seeing how much that love is costing you, by the way. Take a deep breath in again. Notice, where are you? Are you in the head, the neck, the heart? We've got 2 more body parts to go. I want to continue on. There's a loss. Whenever there's a loss, it gives you, say, an opportunity, or it gives that opportunity to hold on to that moment where that loss occurred. If you've noticed individuals who feel burdens of the heart through love, what do? Oh, so-and-so died so long ago. My son died because of the war. All those patterns. And again, I'm not saying it's an excuse. It's just how you process how you process the experience that happened. It is sad that, your son died or whatever it is, but do you have to process it that way? Do you have to burden yourself with that love? That's all I'm saying. Okay. I'm not saying your emotions are wrong in any way, shape, or form, by the way, but are those emotions enabling you to expand and grow from whatever experience that you had? Right? And it's not for your growth, because people like this, people will hear it and they go, God, Mas is evil. Mas doesn't understand. Like, I do understand. You need your identity to hold on to a loss. Otherwise, you would be lost. So you would have to have somebody else lose or get into tragedy. And again, I'm not blaming you. It's just a pattern that has to complete itself. You would have to, say, create realities or attract realities or come into realities, however you want to see it. Again, it's not an excuse. It's not a blame. It's not a pointing of fingers or anything like that. But your pattern consists that someone has to lose something. Someone gets ill. This is where these types of individuals, and again, the neck and the heart, This is where you're the spouse. Your spouse gets ill. You have to take care of them. It's usually a heart and neck burden, right? It's like, gosh, lost their liveliness. We lost our connection. We can't do as much because now they're burdened. They're in a wheelchair. Right? Again, feel the pain in the heart and then the burden around their neck. These are just patterns and programs you can all walk away from, by the way, and love the way I mentioned in the beginning, that true, pure definition of love. So that's the heart example. The womb. Again, this is mostly for women, but for men as well. Okay. So this includes death as well, but different sorts of death or loss. This is usually a death of a child, death of a loved one, death of a situation, death of love. It's all based on identities of the womb, or how, say, fertile a woman would be, and that's why, or how vibrant or virile a man is. You've seen a lot of men this way as well. Again, the womb, right? They don't feel as virile. They don't have that manliness quality. They don't have that substance, that sustenance. Why? Usually because their mothers had, say, the burden of love in their womb. They usually, say, lost a child. And this comes from war, by the way. All the men, which is really unfortunate, all the men that were lost in wars. And then all the women and children, including male children, that carry that burden, where would they carry them? Since it's the female burden, again, of losing your child or your husband in a war, it's right here. It's just literally like tears you apart. You can never fulfill that. These people will feel a void. So say that happened 5 generations back, right? You lost your great-great-great-great-grandfather, your mom, the wife of that person, never recovered from that. It's in your genetic makeup. You feel an emptiness or a void, or perhaps you end up losing children. You try to get pregnant, for example. The loss is so grand, so great. What happens? You can't even create fertility. You can't create sustenance. So in this sort of love, the burden of love, what happens is that there's always a lack. There's always a need. You're never good enough in this form of love. No matter how good you are, no matter how beautiful you look, no matter how good you are in bed, no matter how intelligent you are, no matter what a good sustainer you are, of security and all that, these types of individuals, it's never good enough. If you're providing, you'll never feel good enough. You never will feel good enough. It's not enough. It just isn't enough. Here, have more, have more. And now the person who is awake, he goes, I don't need any more. I just want you to be you. But you can't be you, because you're always trying to fulfill a void. Imagine pouring water in a bucket that has a huge hole. They're always trying to pour love into that bucket, and it just drains right out. So that's the type of love, say, the womb pattern is, right? One, it's hard for women or couples to get pregnant in this type of love. There's always a sacrifice in this type of love, or there's always been a sacrifice. You're never good enough. You're never complete. If you connect with somebody, if you're running this pattern, you connect with somebody, okay, that doesn't run that pattern, or doesn't run a complementary pattern for that, it never works out. Because when you're feeling not good enough, or feeling empty, or not feeling that womanly or manly being that you are, that individual over time will pick up the pattern that, you know what, they are not good enough. And then they'll go, God, they're not good enough for me. No matter what you do, you'll never be good enough for them. No matter what you do, no matter how much you give them, no matter how much love you give them, they're never good enough. So what do? The love disconnects. You feel that loss in your womb, and it gets more ingrained. This is also where the hardening, of the uterus and all that, right? The cysts, that women have, it all comes from this type of burden of love. Okay. The next one is ankles. So in this scenario, again, it is a sacrifice pattern. Okay, so what that means is, and I mentioned this before, what that means, and it works really well with, say, the neck or the burden. So what you have is, well, a chain, a heavy chain on your ankle. This is where you have to sacrifice or you give of yourself. Okay? If you don't give of yourself, you're not worthy, and that love is not going to fulfill you. Not at all. It will never fulfill you. It'll never be good enough for you. And you always have to, again, sacrifice yourself for or to experience this love. And this is also the pattern where I mentioned earlier, like parents do this, right? Or, you marry somebody and then you work your ass off to provide them a good living, and then they leave you or you leave them, whichever way. Those kind of patterns, again, it's that burden or that sacrifice pattern, and it's a shackle. Say, for example, that you gave up your whole life to take your kids through college out of love. Well, that heavy burden, you're pulling that burden of whatever you sacrificed or what you gave away in exchange for you to go forward. It's pretty hard for you to go forward because over time, as you age, whatever you gave up, even in your younger days, it becomes a heavy, heavy, heavy burden for you, especially as you age, because you get weaker, obviously. So all these different types of love, there should only be one, by the way. Okay? But we split it up, and again, this is how we destroy our bodies. This is how we get diseased. This is how, well, we get incapacitated. This is where, our sexual energy, our chemicals go down. We just don't feel the vibrancy in relationships, because over time, what happens is that, we destroy our bodies, we destroy our connection. That's why I say over time, love fades. Over time, love destroys. In its pure sense, the way I define love, again, it's that inner expansion where it anchors you, because that's what love is about, right? If you don't, and this is where those individuals who can't handle a relationship, but they always need somebody. They always need that love. They always need that human connection, because they need to be anchored, because love does anchor for you, but not in the way that most humans do it. It's an anchoring of where you are in the present moment, time, and space. It's like the way we do it in the 18 days meditations, or some of the other deeper meditations that we do, especially the frequency spas and so on like that, where we bring that inner love so your inner beauty comes through. So you might want to check that out. So this is how we process, or again, anchor ourselves in time and space. Again, coming into the present moment, put it in another way. And then we start to, with that anchor, we start to expand into our possibilities. To find out more about that, you might want to look at the book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, Chapter 11, Sexual Transmutation. That's the logistics on what pure love can do for you, right? So now that you know the 5 different layers, or the 5 different levels, or the 5 different body parts on how you burden yourself with love, or how other people burden you with love, let's get into some of the, say, scenarios. Can you be more than just one? Of course you can. Okay, and they play very different versions of it. For example, the ankles, right? You're shackled with the burdens. What happens is that this is where guilt and shame and all that stuff here. So what you do is you're not only pulling, but then you feel guilt, which creates another heavy burden or shackle around your neck. So there's different scenarios, there's different combinations that how you render this. There's a giver of, say, these patterns or burdens, and then there's a taker of these patterns or burdens. So if you want to have homework on this, what you want to do again is jot down and one, what type of, say, main theme are you running? Okay, what area? And if you don't know, well, notice the area that creates tension, or where you feel the pain when, say, when you've lost somebody, or when you love somebody. It's the same, by the way. Okay. The next aspect is, what are you more than one? So your top level pattern that you're running, second pattern that you're running, and then third level pattern that you're running. If you're running more than, say, 2, definitely, and I mean definitely, come have a private session with me, because that's a hell of a lot of burden for you, and nobody should be under that much burden. All right, guys? So another question that you might have is like, well, Mas, what the hell does it mean when you say have it in these different parts of your body? Do you store it? Yes. So this is where love becomes more than, say, a psychological issue or an emotional issue, because now you are creating your what I call your body brain, or basically your DNA. Your DNA or your cellular memory handles your emotions. It is the cornerstone of how you handle your emotion, right? To put it another way. So if you're trying to, say, create or control your emotions from your headspace, it never works out. That's why you have to force yourself to be happy. You have to force yourself to fall in love sometimes, or you have to force yourself to make love, because your inner connection, your cellular memory, okay, your cellular identity or your cellular programming on how you handle love, probably based out of, say, your parents' patterns, again, hereditary patterns, that's what's key. And this goes to the core level. So it helps you at a cellular or genetic makeup on how you process love, right? In a lot of cases, what happens is that you will experience, again, pain. You will experience disease. You'll experience, again, life-threatening illnesses if you can't get over that pain. You'll experience, again, death or presences around you where if you can't let go of that death. So those are all different ways. So it does become a physical manifestation on how you carry the burdens of love. In addition to the meditation on how to release burdens, we do have Total Human Reset. And one of the best Total Human Resets that I've come up with, I've designed, is the relationship one. It's the relationship with your internal self. This is the key component on what needs to be optimized, and that's what we're doing in this Total Human Reset. Is, again, it's not just about relationships. It's about all aspects. It's about spherical abundance. But if you are carrying yourself and with these types of burdens of love, what you want to, and you want to, again, go into that state of love that I talked about, redefine love at a very different level, you'd want to do the Total Human Reset, the relationship edition, okay, which is coming up in 2022. How to release the burdens? Well, we've done a meditation, an XI meditation on specifically just this. The link is below on that if you'd like to connect and once and for all release those burdens for you. The other way is to observe. Okay, some of you might have to write down, but observe what type of love that you have, and just observe it. Right? You don't have to do anything about it, but just observe it. And then through the 18-day meditations and all that you do, you'll start to see, as you observe it, you start to become aware of it. You start to find higher level solutions that get you into that higher level states of love where you want to be. Right? So as we end, notice what you notice, and then notice the details of what you're noticing. And love.